Okay, so this is a new video on, it has a strange name, but it's called tonal cones or cones of tone. And it's not meant to be a play on words, it's just I didn't come up with a better title. So the basic principle in this is that, well, let me just go through the principles. Every spin force is a spin frequency in a recurring tonal progression. So essentially, what this kind of looks like is this drawing right here at the bottom where you have a cycling kind of progression. I'm turning the little camera just to give you the feel of it. And what you have is you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. You have all the notes. And that's basically the idea. Another way to look at it is that you have this line on the outside, which is the basic spin force, and you have that spin force is a spin frequency. It has a precise frequency that it flows along or follows, a frequency of a path of a force, if you will, spin force. And within that is there's a tonal progression. I'm not sure if you have all the notes within it, but I just put them all in there, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So in other words, every time you have a spin force of any scale, you have a spin frequency. And within that spin frequency, you have some kind of tonal progression. And I was just trying to indicate how that works. Another way, of course, to look at that, so to kind of summarize that principle, spin frequencies equal spin forces, and spin forces equal spin frequencies. But if you look at the human being, there's an array of spin forces and spin frequencies, and there's some kind of tonal progression. And I just did kind of a rough drawing where I put C at the bottom, then D, E, F, G, A, B up to the top, and then the question of, does it then go across, back and forth in some kind of spiral, C, D, E, F, G, A, B? The question is, if you can map out the tonal progression, say, in the human psyche or in anything in nature, then you can get a better sense of not only precisely mapping out the spin forces and spin frequencies, but also how to interact the right kind of tones or frequencies to influence or affect things. I mean, you can look at things, for instance, that are indications in this direction, such as ultrasound surgery and other kinds of ultrasound means of therapy or healing and so on, which gives an indication that if we can map out the the tonal progression in the human psyche by understanding how the tones fall within all these spin forces and spin frequencies of the human psyche, then we can do, much more. We can replicate nature and then some. So each spin force or spin frequency is a complete octave of some note or tone. Now this is more kind of a theory or a speculative kind of thing, but it's the notion that, okay, what I've drawn at the bottom here is a spin force. Okay, it's spinning, and it's about to spin out. And as it's spinning out, it's going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and that's the end of the spin force. And then that's the a spin force octave. But going the other way, you have a counter spin force octave, which is going in reverse. Now, how the notes fall and how you differentiate one from the other is really the question. But it may well be possible to map out, and here's another drawing with a spin force essentially circling around this way with a counter spin force within it going the other way, and you have these octaves of tones, this tonal progression. In other words, that when a spin force begins, it begins at a certain tone and it ends at a certain tone. And so the whole point is that by understanding these tonal progressions, we can much more maybe measure or model or map or predict or better understand spin forces and spin frequencies. All of these kind of concepts do, kind of return to that principle which I already stated in other videos, which is F equals S divided by CS, which is force equals spin divided by counterspin. And that's what all of this is premised upon. It's not premised upon Newton's notions of force equals mass times acceleration. It's not premised on Einstein's notions of energy equals mass times speed of light squared. It's premised on that both of those principles, both of those equations posit, they have implicit within them these notions of energy and force, and implicit within them the notion of spin with acceleration and speed of light squared, but they each have this assumption of something called mass, which really is not necessarily, it's not to say there's no such thing as substance, that there's no such thing as a fundamental substance, that everything in nature is composed of, and that it's a distinct spin frequency of. But the fact remains that when you get down and you cut down to the root, the bone of nature, all you have there is spin forces and spin frequencies of some kind of fundamental substance or some kind of fundamental substances, which that leaves another open question, which I still don't have the answer to myself. But the point is that these spin forces, these spin frequencies, essentially could be the way to understand all the kind of variations in nature, and that the fundamental principle is spin, and that when you get down to it, that whether it's a spinning magnetic particle, a electron, a photon, a plasma medium, whether it's some ether, luminiferous ether, whether it's gas phenomena or solids or liquids, everything is going to be based on this fundamental principle of spin, and thus everything can be modeled regardless of what the fundamental substances are, what the fundamental substance of nature is. Still, if you're going to map out what's happening in reality, you can reduce it to spin and counterspin. You can reduce all forces, all substances, all mediums down to one equation and map and model all of them and all of their spin-force interactions through a simple equation. Force equals spin divided by counterspin. And if you can calculate what a given spin force is and divide it by whatever counterspin forces interact with it, you can map out the total force of something and get a much more accurate predictive kind of system for modeling nature as it actually occurs. So that's about it. Thanks.